We want to experience where the weight has gone in our feet and see if we can get it equal left and right, and then front and back. And then maybe give a little more weight to that inside edge, base of the big toe, drawing a line back into the heel. So a little more weight on that inner part of the foot than on the outer. And if we look at our legs, just put a little energy into the leg muscles and start to hold on to the leg bones. We'll lift our kneecaps and all that drawing, that gentle, but a little bit of work there, drawing the muscles up into the hips, little sinking at our tailbone, moving the low belly in. And then just taking the fingers on the abdominal wall. And just as we touch the muscles, they just naturally engage. And then taking the attention between the shoulder blades, lifting up, at the neck lifting up, on the back of the head lifting up. And then we've got the hands somewhere on our belly. What we'll do is we'll just take one hand around the back. So front of the waist, back of the waist, and then just come a little bit lower, kind of top of the hip, just below the navel. Having for ourselves a feeling that the tailbone going downward, not a severe tuck, but definitely an opening downward. And that gives us space at the back of the waist. And we always want that space for our lumbar vertebra. Okay. So kind of set up our posture, and we'll add our breathing with the fingertips on the low belly as we breathe in, running the fingers up the center line, letting the elbows lift, and just holding the breath as we open out the arms, and we'll breathe out through our mouth. And just taking our own breath tempo. Now, if we do work, excuse me, to gently lengthen our out breath, if we do work on that, at the same time, we want to monitor the tailbone, the back of the waist, the back of the neck. And we keep those areas open, a feeling of length. So the work of the breathing is going to go into the muscles around the ribs and in the deep core. And we'll have one more breath, our own tempo. Okay, so when we're ready to move again, we're just going to take our heels up. And then when the heels go down, just lifting all the toes. So we're looking for the placement of weight in the feet. So the base of the big toe is significant. And when those heels are lifted, the tailbone is still sinking, the back of the neck is lifting. And we'll do one more. Once the heels are down, we'll bring the toes up. And let's work with the big toes pressing down. The rest of the toes, the rest of the toes lifting up. And then we're going to reverse. Just back and forth. And last time, when the toes do come up, pause. See if they'll spread apart a bit. Got the toes held up, checking the tailbone, neck, back of the skull, base of the skull coming upward. And let's put the toes down and just switch the work by using the toes to dig into the mat. And then from there, just pausing neutral and just checking again the balance of weight through the feet, all the way up the body, those small adjustments that give us an extension through the spine in the core. I'm going to let our knees bend. And just any depth that's comfortable for today. And we're making circles from the knee. Switching direction every so often. And then when it feels balanced, coming into the center, just letting the knees bend a little more, tucking the tailbone a little bit. Let's create a feeling through the hips, of the hips kind of shooting downward. And then chest, back of the neck, lifting upward. And we're going to come up as we inhale. So when you're breathing in, sweep out, draw up tall. And just pause tall. We'll just breathe here. But what we'll do as we're breathing is push up through the heels of the palms. Take the neck back and up, the tailbone down, and just pressing up. And then soften the arms when it's time to exhale, bringing the arms down. When it's time to inhale, we'll sweep up. And then let's try for a long breath here. So every so often, just take a little sip of air, just like a drink through a straw. But at some point, it is time to breathe out. The arms come down again. And we'll do one more of those. So just little sips. And then when it is an out breath, we'll just bring the arms down to shoulder height. The palms are upward. And then we'll just touch our shoulders. Get a handful of times here. And then next time we touch the shoulders, just take the elbows forward, then extend the arms. And just a handful. So on that last one, just reaching out here and then pushing out through the palms. So just finding what's a comfortable width for us. We want to experience that we've moved our shoulder blades. And then check the neck and tailbone, lifting at the base of the skull. At some point we need air, open wide, and float up. And then we're just going to go, when we're ready, right to the exhale, bringing the arms down. Okay, we'll just take the hands at the top of the hips. No, actually, sorry, first let's take the feet wider. We'll give the hips a change here. Actually, we'll do a little something for the hips. So hands, rather than literally at the top of the hip, come down on the sides a bit lower, and we've got that crease, that indentation, that's our hip socket, and we're going to bend the knee, and then we're going to circle for the hip. switching our direction every few times. And when we're ready, we'll just come back into the center. Okay, now we're breathing out. We're going to run our hands down our thighs, just above the knees, tuck the tailbone round the back, lift up at the neck, tucking the chin. We widen the elbows to move the shoulder blades. Let's get a breath or two here. Now, when we want to inhale, we'll basically keep the hands where they are. We'll lengthen the arms, lift the shoulders, lift the ribs, lift up at the back of the head. Now the hips move, but rather than stick the tailbone back to the wall behind us, send the tailbone toward the floor behind us. And we need an out breath. We're going to tuck the tailbone more clearly, rounding the back, moving the belly in, tucking the chin. And just imagine rounding the back so much that you're moving the collarbones now toward the pubic bone. And we're going to go tall when we inhale. So when it's an inhale, release the arms, bring the hands up in front of the face. As the arms lift, the elbows poke up, the face follows up. And then we just unfurl, reaching tall. And here, let the hips just gently go outward. And when we need to breathe out, we'll start with the arms, the elbows bend, the hands come down. The eyes just follow the hands down. And as we go down, we're rounding. You can take the hands down onto the thighs, rounding the back. And then we'll do an inhale with the hands staying on the thighs. So arms straighten, chest goes outward, upward, back of the head reaches upward. And then we send the tailbone to the ground behind us. We use our exhalation, rounding our body, tucking the chin. And we're going to use our inhalation when we're ready to breathe in to take the arms up. As the arms lift, we follow with the eye, let the shoulders pull the ribs up, keep extending, reaching, and gently taking the hips forward. And then to breathe out, adjust the head so we can look straight ahead. Bring the hips back in line with the shoulders. And we're just going to float the arms down. And now we're going to put the hands at the tops of the hips. So when we breathe out, moving the right side back, looking behind, releasing the right arm, the in-breath turns us forward, takes the arm up. The out-breath touches the opposite shoulder. We're going to slide the hand down as far as is comfortable for our head, only going so far as feels appropriate. When we want to come up, the hand comes up on the right side. And then the exhale takes the left side back, releases the arm. The in-breath turns forward, reaching tall. And the out-breath runs the hand all the way down the side. And we're just traveling with our breath. Now, if we keep the neck long and the head, the chin slightly tucked, we're going to work with the eyes. And we're going to have the eyes follow the fingers as best they can. Whenever we do a left side, we're going to have that be our last side. And when we're ready, just having a moment where experience our posture. And we're going to move our heels outward and walk the feet outward. We're going to walk the heels out beyond our shoulders. We're going to turn the feet in and bend the knees. Let the tailbone drop, open the back of the waist, lift the back of the neck. And then with the breath, reaching tall, have that moment where we press up in the palms and feel for ourselves the tailbone sinking, the neck lifting. And then when we're ready, going wide. And then pointing out the fingers and bringing the fingers in to touch the shoulders. And then let's turn our left elbow forward and then rotate so the right elbow goes forward. Now, initially, we're going to look straight ahead, keeping the hips forward, being aware of the weight at the base of the big toe back to the heel. And then activating the thigh muscles. So inner thighs drawing inward, upward, and then lower down the thighs. Very small movement, knees going apart. So we really stabilize the hips here, and that gives us twist all through the core body. I'll make it a little different. When the right elbow's forward, I'm going to look back behind for my left elbow. And then as I go forward, the head goes forward, and then turn, the other elbow goes back, then I look back. So just be sensitive with the neck as we do this rotation in the neck. See if we can keep the chin a little tucked, the neck long. And then when we look back on the right side, from there we're going to come forward, and then we're going to open the arms out. And then let's just bring the arms down. Okay, we'll come back to that for some more work for the shoulders. But first from here, just lift the heels, swing them in, and that releases our legs. Let's go a little wider. Doesn't matter how wide, just wider than we've been. We're going to turn our left leg out at the hip. We're going to bend the knee. And so I've got one hand, so right hand on my right hip, left hand on the thigh. I'm going to come up, turn the foot in, turn the other one out. One of the things we want to do for ourselves here, we want to vary the distance between the feet and find where it is today that we feel strong down into the feet. So basically the torso is staying sideways as the leg bends. Okay, get back to the left side. And then I'm going to see if this left hand touching the knee can just run down the shin a little bit toward the ankle. And then run back up. And when it's up, straighten up. And other side. We get into position. We run the hand down the lower leg, just where it'll go. We draw it back up, then we straighten up. So depending on how our knees feel, a move like this is always optional. Some days when the knees feel a little ragged, it's really important that we place the knee in a strong place for the whole leg. So the knee basically above the foot. Okay. will be a little different now. When we go back to the left, I'm going to put my left forearm on the thigh, and then I'm going to look to the side. So it gives me a different placement of the hip. And the whole torso now is turned to the left. And then when I'm ready, I'll bring myself up. So turning to the side, I'm at the right side, my right forearm's on the thigh. In this case, I'm using my left hand just to touch the wrist. Okay, this right one, our last one like this, we're going to make it just a little different now. When we go to the left, I'm just going to do this straight on. When I go to the left leg, right forearm on the thigh. So now my hips really are squared on, and I can start to create a twist through the core just by looking over to that forward leg side, left side. Bring myself up, go around to the other side, so the right knee bends, and then the left forearm's on the right thigh. I can look a little off to the right. So, you know, our timing when we get to a side is really our own choice. And we just respond to how the body's doing in the position. Some days we really feel like we'd like to try to be a moment or two longer. Other days we're happy to leave. Now with this slight twist, one of the things that's available to us is some interesting work in this back leg and the lower part of the leg. So I'm bending my left leg, I'm going to put my right forearm on the thigh, and then I can explore what I do with the foot. So I can turn the foot outward more, I can turn the foot inward more. As the foot turns in more, I can find some places to stretch in that lower leg. So we don't have to spend as long at a side as what I'm doing as I'm babbling on here. Okay, so once you feel balanced on each side, just pausing will come up, just walk, just take a break from that. And then let's just walk our feet back in. Nice work for the hip sockets, just coming foot, heel, foot, heel. And then just lifting a knee. We always want to be sensitive to the placement of the core. So I could take my knee higher if I lean forward. I don't want to do that because I start to lose that elongation in the spine. And that's really more important for us long term. So by keeping my spine long, my tailbone dropped, base of the skull lifted, then getting the leg up to where it'll go, much more long-term benefit. Okay, we can't do this forever. So the right one comes up, we're going to open it out, and just a gentle pathway back down to neutral. Always being polite in the hip socket, avoiding kind of banging, clunking in the hip socket. If we do have that, and I certainly used to, need to slow it down and just make it a slightly smaller movement so you remove that inner clunk experience. And then work from there, and it will slowly develop. Those little muscles around the socket, they'll get stronger. They'll be able to more easily manage the movement. Now, we'll just do a couple more where the right foot goes out, then we land on the left. So sometimes the arms don't know what to do, and they can certainly reach outward a little bit. Gives us a little help with balance. Doing our last ones, so we'll end with a left one. And then when we do get the feet down, just taking that moment to experience the balance in the feet and creating length again through the core body. Whenever we have a little burst of activity like that, even when we're trying to be aware of it, the core will kind of compress, right? It'll engage, draw inward. Want to get that length back. And then we'll just get the feet a little wider again. We're going to go back to our knees turned in stance. Well, feet turned in, knees gently pushed outward, tailbone sinking, back of the head lifting. And then here's the in-breath, just whenever it happens. We'll take a moment where we lift the shoulders. Okay, a little more rotation for the arms to move the shoulder blades. And then we'll just come straight out in front. Now we're pushing forward, but take the neck back and up. My right arm, I'm going to rotate the fingers up, inward and down, and then push the elbow back without turning the spine. We certainly want the shoulders and the ribs to move. So we'll just pause here. We've got the right elbow back, or when the right elbow is back, the left palm forward. And on the left palm, just press a little further through the heel of the palm. On the right, don't poke straight up, but a feeling of outward, upward a little bit through that right elbow. And then let's switch. So keeping in touch with the spine, heel of the palm, that back elbow. We're going to do this once more each side, but what we're going to do when that elbow goes back, I'm going to turn my head back and look at that elbow behind me. And then turn forward when you're ready with the arm moving. Send the elbow back and then look back. And then coming forward as we're ready. Just take a moment to let the arms rise and separate, coming close when we're ready, but being very sensitive to the experience in the shoulders here. Want the shoulders to feel opened up here, even though they're working very hard. And then soften the wrists, soften the arms. Just let the arms float back down. Okay, we want to straighten the legs by lifting the heels, swinging them in. Let the feet land again with the legs straight. And then just work them a little wider apart. Looking for a distance that feels okay for right now in our body. I'm going to take both my hands. I'm going to touch them to my right leg. As I breathe out, I'm just going to run the hands down the leg. Just as low as is comfortable. I'm going to let my head hang when I'm down here. And when I inhale, hands come up onto the low belly. That instant where I just check my length through the core and then down the left leg. And the left side, we really release as we finish out the breath. When we go down the right leg. We're going to take an extra breath. When we need to inhale, we're going to lift up the left arm. We can point with the fingertips or push with the heel. We can play with either, but what we want to do, whichever one we're using, is lengthen through the neck, the back of the head. And you have to work with the legs. You know, it's easy for us to kind of let parts of the body relax out in a pose. They don't all have to strain, but they all have to contribute. And then when you breathe out, just melt over. Let the neck, the head hang. We can have many breaths here, but when we're ready to move, use the inhale to take the right arm up, looking behind, looking upward. And again, the goal is found at the neck, in the hips. And an exhale when it occurs to release the arm down, release the head here. We're going to come up as we breathe in. So the arms run up the leg, we'll come center, and we'll pause for an extra breath, and maybe a slight change for the feet. We're going to go down the left as we breathe out, releasing the head. And then to move with the in-breath, reaching up in the right arm, reaching out through the base of the skull, power down the legs, and then see what's available for the arm and shoulder. And when we're ready for an out breath, we'll take that arm down. We can take an extra long exhale or an additional breath as we release the neck. When we wish to move, we use the inhale to send up the left arm. Lengthen through the body. So back of the head going out across the room, and the chin's a little tucked. And then bringing the arm down, dropping the head. And then for the inhale, bringing the hands up the leg onto the low belly. And change the feet again, just walking them in a bit. I'm going to keep the heels roughly to start under my shoulders. Maybe turn the feet out a little bit so I can bend the legs. And I'm going to lean. I want to lean weight into my hands. And we can tell we've got weight there because we get an ease of movement in the low back. Low back doesn't feel like it's doing all the work. Arms and shoulders really in the picture here. And once we're here, we can play with, okay, where's the optimum for my feet and my hips? And I want to keep the knees in a comfortable place. So we're going to move from here by bending the left elbow outward, taking the right shoulder inward. And then I'm going to look not over that bent elbow. And then work with the core by sinking the tailbone, lifting at the base of the skull. Let's go to the other side. So we'll inhale to the center, have that moment with both arms straight, then right into bending the right. Left shoulder falls into the center line. Gaze going over to the bent elbow, tailbone sinking, back of the skull lifting. And then the in-breath again through center. And as we're ready, over to the left side. Left elbow is bent. Right shoulder dropping inward to the center line. So it's that right arm that's nice and straight. And it keeps that right knee from just rolling in. So we'll switch sides as we breathe in. So right elbow's bent, left shoulder moving in toward the center line. And then the inhale again into the center. Okay, let's tuck the chin a little bit. Lift up at the back of the skull, drop the tailbone a little bit, take the spine backward, bend the elbows a little to get the shoulder blades to move outward. And now we're going to come onto the mat. So if you can work from this position, one way to get lower is to slide the hands down the legs. And let the knees bend more, let the hips sink. So being careful with our knees. This is always optional. We can get down here. We don't want to be in the heels. We can put the hands out, lift the heels up, and then that actually lets us fiddle with the foot placement. And so this is a nice place to work if it's okay for the feet, because it is a powerful position for the feet with the heels off and the base of the toes down. And then from here, we're going to go all the way onto the mat. So I'll put one hand behind, the other hand behind. I'm going to ease those hips down. And then just a treat for the legs, I can get a little shake. And as we're shaking the legs, we can check the back body where the base of the skull can keep itself lifted, the neck open. And when we're done with that, we just land the feet. Okay. So I'm going to just bring the knees in a bit closer. I'm going to ease the legs one side, then the other. And just to start, just going side to side. For ourselves, we're working with the placement of the feet, so it's okay for the knees to be going side to side. And so we let the hips get a lot of movement here so the knees are comfortable. Well, we let the knee go as the hip turns. Going right, we'll take the knees down, we'll lift ourselves up so this left hip is clear of the ground, hands on the hip, so I can really encourage that little extra movement here. And then I'll just release this left arm and reach out. So I may look at the hand, but I don't want to keep doing that. I want to lift up through the base of the skull. I'm going to rotate the arm, press out through the palm. And then soften the arm, bring the arm back down, turn the ribs forward, the chest forward, the knees up. Flowing left. First, help that right hip move a little further using the hand. And then release the arm, pushing out, lifting at the base of the skull. So the chin's a little tucked, the gaze is downward. And just a bit of press. And then releasing the arm, bringing the arm down, the knees up, the chest forward. And then dropping the legs to the right. We'll do something a bit different. I'm going to take this left hand, I'm going to put it right on the ground. So here I'm at the right side, I've got the hands down. I'm just going to come really low. I'm going to look behind, looking under the shoulder, behind the body. I'm going to maneuver that back foot where I can see it. Once I see that foot, it's going to lift it up and down off the ground, handful of times. And then put the foot down, press up with the arms. And now we look like this, right? We're in this position. I'm going to press up. What I'm going to do is lift this knee up and down handful of times. As I lift the knee, I might be able to start walking myself up a bit and just gently feel how high can I come up without straining in joints. And when I'm done there, I'm going to change sides in a different way. I'm going to pick that knee up and I'm going to swing that leg out. So left leg, left hip goes down, right knee lifts up, right leg stretches out. I've got my legs long, so we'll just give a chance to have a little bounce of the legs. So I have my left leg now. It's going to come inward. I'm going to lean both hands over. As I lean over, you can see the right leg just naturally turns. The knee bends back. So I'm on my left side now, right foot's behind. Both hands are out here past that knee where it works. Gonna come low, gonna look underneath that shoulder, down my back body, and maneuver that right foot so I can see it. And then the right foot lifts up and down a handful of times. So at this point, the knee is staying down, just the foot lifting. And then I'm going to press up a bit. And now this knee, this right knee can lift. And I can just carefully explore how I can change the position of my core and still lift the knee and not have joints complaining. So joint starts to complain, I have to come a bit lower or stop. And then we've done enough there to leave the position. I'm going to lift the knee. I'm going to swing the leg out. I'm going to shift weight to the right, to the straight leg. I'm going to straighten out the left. And again, just a bit of gentle bouncing. And just bounce them around. If you've got a surface where it's easy to slide the feet in and out, just get a little bit of motion there. And then find a distance that feels good. And we're just going to wag the legs inward and outward. Okay. And then put a little bit of energy in the legs, just so there's a feeling that they're helping hold the hips in place. A little bit of energy in the low belly. We breathe in, just reaching wide. I'm going to twist to the right. So as I breathe out, the right fingertips touch down behind the hip, left fingertips in front, our own version of where they land, but on the fingertips. As I breathe out, I'm going to peek over the shoulder. When I breathe in, I'm going to turn forward, float the arms up. And breathe out, going to the other side. And breathing in. So our own tempo here, but in breath, turn us forward, gives us a chance to check our length. Out breath, twisting to the side. And let's go once more for each side. And when we get to the center, from here, let's just go gently forward. So going forward, landing the hands where it works, releasing the neck, releasing the upper back. Taking a long breath into the low belly, letting the low belly move inward into our hips. And then opening the elbows a little bit. So we move the shoulder blades. So with some energy through the thighs, some energy in the arms and shoulders, allowing the spine to relax a bit more. Supporting the low back with some energy in the low belly. And we're going to come up as we inhale. So soften the arms, slide them up the legs. And then let's draw the knees in. Let's explore just crossing the ankles. We'll work with both sides, so it doesn't matter which one we've got in front as long as we know which one it is. We want to work with the core body by releasing down in the hips, a little tucking to the tailbone, lifting up between the shoulder blades, through the neck at the base of the skull. So the inhale is going to take our arms outward. We're going to float them up. And then we're going to bend the elbows. See if we can bring our hands together right above our head. So I can maybe just touch the heels of the palm under my head and get a feeling of being right there at the crown of the head. Just lift them off a little bit, just find a comfortable height. So I want to find the placement of my head. I want the head back and up. I don't want to lean back. So keep the torso, the chest above the hips. As I find this place, I can allow the arms to gently lengthen. We just go as far as we can go, because we will do this for the other side. So we don't have to push the first time we encounter this. Always would rather focus on extension through the spine than extension through the arms. And then let's bend the elbows again, just coming low. And let the heels of the palms there touch the head, just see where it is. It's just a way for us to feel where it is. And then from there, release the arms. So I'm going to put some weight in my hands and give my legs a shake. I'm going to cross the legs so the other leg's in front. And then taking a moment here to sink the weight of the hips down, energy in the belly, and then start to draw up and really draw up through the back body. And once we feel that placement in ourselves, it's a good time to kind of feel that sense of ears lined up with shoulders, chest above hips. And if we feel that, then we add the arms. So as we inhale, they float up. They get up somewhere high up there, and we're going to bend the elbows, bring the palms together, and then just let the palms, heel of the palms, just touch the top of the head. That helps us just locate things. And then as the arms go up, we're inhaling. And we're really working on length through the core. The most important thing is to extend the core. And we'll find tight places. And we find a tight place, rather than buckle the core, we're better off just pausing kind of at the gateway of that tight place. And just allowing it to melt, just with gentle effort, seeing if we can melt through it. And the first few times, we rarely are able to melt all the way through. So fine-tuning our inner core. And we're going to release. So first we let the elbows bend. And again, we just touch down the top of the head, just kind of get a sense of where things are. And then we'll just float the arms out. Okay, let's release our legs. And we'll just stretch them forward. Any width that works, a close width, but wherever it feels good. And we'll just touch where it's easy to grab. So avoiding a strain, especially don't strain the low back. We're going to tuck the chin, base of the skull reaching outward, and then thighs drawing into the hips, and tailbone sinking down. And then wherever we are holding, elbows outward and forward. And just gentle, deep breaths into the belly. Now we're going to breathe in. We'll just let ourselves lift up as we release the arms. We naturally come a bit higher. And then from here, we're going to transition onto our back. So go sideways, bending the knees, taking the hips forward, bringing the weight onto the forearms, and then all the way onto the back. And just experiencing the back body. Just letting the hips sink down. And then add just the smallest amount of weight to the soles of the feet, a little bit of tuck to the tailbone, and bring the top of the hips in contact with the mat. And let the back of the waist just lower itself into the mat. And then let's take the hands, the fingers up to the skull, and lift the skull, just using the hands, tuck the chin, kind of a gentle drawing the neck long, and then place the back of the head onto the mat. Not straining, but seeing if we can gently elongate the neck here. And again, experiencing the back of the waist sinking down. And then at the base of the skull, just a slight pressure, just a little more contact. The chin tucked, the throat relaxed, back of the waist sinking. Now we can do a little work from here by pressing more clearly through the feet, tucking the tailbone more clearly. As we inhale, just letting the hips start to lift off the ground. The skull probably wants to move away from the shoulders, so resettle the skull. Hip height lines the knees, hips, and the base of the shoulder blades into one line. And just finding that place. If you can stay a moment longer as you breathe in, take the arms vertical, fingers pointing at the ceiling, bend the wrists, rotate the arms, press up through the palms. Now take the gaze at the knees or the ribs, so you can keep the neck feeling long. And then lower the arms down close to the ears and press outward through the base of the palms. And do this with the exploration inside the shoulders. So if we're careful, we can get muscles to shift and move a little bit so that we can get more extension, more depth in the shoulders, and no jamming up in the joints. So exploring carefully. Now we're going to move from here by lowering the hips back down. So that little tuck to the tailbone means the top of the hips clearly touch the ground, and then pull the knees in and take the hands onto the knees. Gently separate the knees toward the shoulders, the armpits. Nice long breath that takes the belly like a balloon. And when it's the out breath, letting the belly sink deep into the hips. And then let's bring our knees close together. So the knees touch, the hands shift to the outsides of the knees. We're going to use our hands to circle the knees. So keeping the legs in contact, we get a handful of circles in one direction, and then we switch to the other direction. And being sensitive to balance our circling. And when we're ready, we're back in the center line. And then from here, just guide the feet right down into the center line of the body, close together, knees touching. And then release the arms straight out sideways from the shoulders. We're going to turn our palms downward into the mat. And just press a little contact through the fingertips. We're going to tip the knees over to the right side. Now tip the knees, see if the left foot can stay really tight to the right foot. Let the knees drop. They won't necessarily go all the way down. And the inhale brings them back up. So we're not trying to force the knees down. We're more interested in keeping the feet and knees aligned. We go to the side. We're probably going to feel a stretch from the hip up into the mid-back. So it's quite possible to feel a stretch kind of halfway between the outside of the hip and the spine. So we're using our inhales to come up, exhale to a new side, and maybe linger a little bit at the end of the exhale. So gently we deepen side to side by releasing and not forcing. And then when our knees go to the right side, let them go as far as they'll naturally go. And then bring that left arm up and take it over to the right. And that'll take us up onto the right side. And at the right side, we're just going to shift the body a bit so the knees are one above the other. They're in the same line as the hips. Now, once we've done that, we're going to explore keeping the legs where they are, but letting the shoulders drop back down. So the lower shoulder, it needs to find a comfortable place. The upper shoulder won't touch the ground at this point. Well, it might, but don't expect it to. The lower arm grabs the top leg. Now just internally check. We want the hips lined up with the head. And once we're feeling we're in that place, we're going to take this free arm, the upper arm, and just reach up for the ceiling. And when we're reaching for the ceiling, we bend the wrist, we rotate the arm, we push up through the heel of the palm. And then we're going to bring the arm down alongside the ear and push toward the wall behind us. And then adjust the head so the chin's a little tucked, the neck is long, and the gaze goes down that top side of the body. So keep pressing through the heel of the palm. And that top hip, just move it a little bit away from the armpit, just enough. And we should feel that just enough in the core somewhere. Another breath or two, pressing through the palm. And then we're going to open this upper arm out sideways to about 45 degrees, halfway between the head and the shoulder, gently pressing outward. But now work inside the shoulder and see if you can relax the shoulder blade. We'll keep the arm off the ground. Let's see if we can let that shoulder blade and shoulder soften. Chin stays tucked. And then we're going to release. So soften that upper arm, bend the elbow, and just bring that hand back down onto the hip. We're going to switch sides. So as we breathe in, we'll bring the knees up. We're going to get a breath or two on the back. So smooth out the placement of the hips, adjust the length in the spine, the base of the skull. Just give the core a moment to relax downward toward the ground. Now, before we go right to the other side, we'll keep the knees close, the feet side by side. We'll take the arms out from the shoulders, the palms down into the ground, pressing weight at the fingertips. And then when we exhale, tipping the knees, so ankles and feet stay aligned, and just letting the knees go to one side, not expecting them to go down. Inhale is up, exhale is the opposite side. Okay, so when the knees drop to the left, they stay left. We're going to bring that right arm up and over to the left side. So we shift onto our left side of the body, and that lets us fiddle the hips into the right place. Want the knees to line up with the hips, to be one on top of the other, the feet brought back toward the hips. And then put the head down and work the shoulders a little bit. See if we can get the shoulders to drop downward. The bottom arm, our left arm, it grabs the top leg. Before we do anything with the upper arm, the hips, the head, the feet, they're roughly trying to line up. Hips and head are important. Want to make sure that the neck is long, the chin tucked, the gaze is looking down this top side of the body. Then I'm going to rotate my top arm vertical, point my fingers up. I'm going to bend the wrist, I'm going to rotate the arm, push up at the heel of the palm. And then I'm going to bring this arm low down by the ear. And I'm going to push out through the heel. So my top hip, I'm going to gently move it away from the armpit, just that little bit. My gaze is looking down my top side. My chin is a little tucked, the neck is long, a little tuck at the tailbone to keep the back of the waist long. Pushing out at the palm. And then I'm going to adjust this upper arm, taking it outward about 45 degrees, pressing out sideways, letting the shoulder blades sink down, but still push out through the heel of the hand. Just another breath or two. Just check what the eyes are doing. And then soften that working arm, bend the elbow, guide the hand back by the hip. I'm going to bring the knees up as we breathe in. And then just smooth out the back on the mat. And then as we exhale, take the knees in the hands, draw them in towards the armpits. And then let that left foot touch the mat. The right hand's going to come down on the inside of the leg. reaching as low as it can. If the right hand can hold the right heel, work with that. And then open up a bit of space in the right knee and a bit more length in the left leg. So we extend the left leg so there's just the left heel on the ground, push down through the heel. We'll let our left arm rest, and we're going to let the weight drop over to the right side, and then push outward at the right heel. Keep contact at the left heel. So both heels doing some work. And we're going to change sides. So first step, right knee softens, the right leg just melts inward. We roll onto our back. Then the left hand takes the right heel, the right arm relaxes. And our exhale rolls us over onto our left side of the body. And when we're there, pushing outward through the heel. And when we're here, adjust the head. So we'll initially look upward to get the face oriented upward. And we'll take the gaze down. Imagine you were looking for your top hip. So want the neck long, the tailbone a little tucked, and potentially that lower leg, that left leg, push down through the heel. So on that lower leg, it's the outside edge of the foot that has contact with the mat, and the heel can maybe just push downward. And that top hip, move it away from the shoulder, just a small amount. Now we're going to leave this posture by softening the right knee, bending it in, and then rolling onto our back. We're going to bring both knees in when we come onto the back. And just hug the knees towards the armpits for a moment. And then release the right foot. Let the foot touch the mat. Left hand on the inside of the leg, reaching for the heel or ankle. And then opening up that left knee a bit, extending the right leg, so just the heel on the ground. And with the out breath, shifting our weight now to the left side, pushing outward through our heel. So left heel pushing outward, press a little bit of weight on the right heel. And we're going to change sides, so we'll soften the left leg, let it bend in, and then roll to the back. And change hands. Right hand gets the left heel, left arm relaxes, and we shift the weight to the right side. Push out through our heel. Take the gaze upward, tuck the chin a little bit, so we can create length at the base of the skull, pushing up, tailbone a little tucked here. And then if we wish, explore the right leg, the outside edge of the foot on the mat, push down a bit with the heel. Explore the top hip, seeing if it'll move just a tiny bit away from that upper shoulder. Work with the eyes, looking down, imagining we could see that top hip. And we're going to leave by first softening the right leg, letting it bend in, and then shifting the weight onto the back. And then the hands hold the knees. Gently open the knees a bit. And then return the feet to the ground. So if we lift the hips and just kind of lift them off the ground and move the hips towards the heels,
And then release the low back and hips onto the mat. And then see if we can work the head a little higher up away from the shoulders, just a little bit here. And the chin tuck, the throat release. So once we feel the back is long on the ground, let the knees fall outward. And then for the right leg, adjust so we've got the outside edge of the foot making contact. And then push down through that right foot to stretch out the leg. And when the leg goes long, just release. For the left, find the outside edge of the foot, pushing down through the foot, taking the leg long and releasing. And just relaxing the weight of the legs. Letting the arms rest alongside the body. And putting the focus onto the breath. Experiencing the breath entering the body. Experience the movement of the air in the nasal passages, on the roof of the mouth, in the throat. Experiencing the movement of the ribs as we fill with air, as we release air. And experiencing the movement of the belly as we inhale and exhale. Now, when we do breathe in, just lift the arms up and overhead. Reach out through the arms, and then bring the legs in closer and reach down through the legs. Maybe moving a bit in the wrists and ankles, and the fingers and toes. When we're ready, breathing out, draw the knees in, taking the hands on the legs, and rocking lightly, going one side, then the other. And as we're ready, just bringing ourselves up to sitting.
Namaste. Thank you.